Hello, here's your reach tip of the day. If you have a vacuum pump that is what we call a wet ring pump, it requires water when it's running. That's more susceptible to the weather. If the room it's in is outside of your office, like a room that's built on the exterior portion where the temperatures may fluctuate a lot more, and it may be the cold it affects it more. It's a good idea preventatively to have some kind of a heat source in there so the wet ring pump does not freeze. I'll go over that in detail here in a minute. It could be a simple thing of a heat lamp that's directed over your heat pump. It doesn't have to be real hot. It needs to make sure that room or the pump doesn't get down to freezing. So you could get a heat lamp that's plugged into an outlet and just hang it over the vacuum pump, or a little standalone heater that could be plugged in during those cold days. Why they're so susceptible is in the base of the vacuum pump, it stores water around the turbine it's required to form suction. That standing water, if it does freeze, it can actually break the housing of the vacuum pump when it freezes. So it's very important to keep that from freezing. Also, the water line going to your vacuum pump needs to make sure that is free of freezing, so that there's water going to your vacuum pump. Because if you run your vacuum pump and there is no water supply, it can overheat, because that's one of the features of providing water to the vacuum pump, is to keep it from overheating and burning the bottom of the pump up. So here's a couple of things to look out for when you're on your vacuum pump. Here's a typical dual vacuum system. There's two pumps, two motors. In the base down here, down in the bottom, that's where it's full of water, and that's where you want to make sure it doesn't freeze, this brass colored bottom of it. The top portion is the electric motor, which is fine, but this is where we're looking. The water supply line I'm after to point out is this. Usually it's a flexible line. It's very susceptible to freezing because it doesn't take much temperature to freeze this. If you want to make sure that you have a good water supply going to your vacuum pump, an ideal way is to disconnect it where it goes to your vacuum pump, right here or however it is connected. Turn off your water supply at the building, or not at the building, at the valve. This particular one is on the wall here. You would turn this off, disconnect the water line, and then in a bucket, turn on the water line and make sure you have good water flow going to your vacuum pump. Okay, that's the two crucial things: making sure that it doesn't freeze, and also that you have good water flow going to it. If you ever even have a situation where not necessarily the winter time, but if you had street service done and they worked on the water lines, if debris goes through your water lines, there's a little filter in there that can get plugged up, and it can strain your water pump and again burn your vacuum pumps up if there's not good water flow. That's your reach tip of the day.